Buttercream icing is pretty simple and easy to make. Simply put, buttercream icing is just 4 ingredients mixed together and then whipped until fluffy. First, you'll start by putting your softened butter in the bowl of a stand mixer. Turn the mixer on low and cream until the butter is smooth. Once the butter is mixed and smooth, we'll add our powdered sugar, but 1 cup at a time, and mixing between each addition. So add 1 cup of powdered sugar, then turn the mixer back on low until almost combined. Then you can add the next cup of powdered sugar. And again, adding the powdered sugar in these amounts simply ensures that it doesn't all poof out when you turn the mixer on and you lose half your sugar. The sugar may not all mix in very well at first, but this is where the milk comes in. After you've added all the powdered sugar, we'll go ahead and add our milk and our vanilla, and the liquid will help bring the icing together. Now that we have all of our ingredients in there, the only thing left to do is whip the icing for a few minutes until it's completely smooth, whipped, lighter in color, and fluffy. You can see here, this is what it looks like once we've just blended the ingredients together. But once we whip it for a minute or two, it's going to turn lighter in color and more fluffy. Scrape down the sides of the bowl so that you get all of the icing to mix. You can see here how the icing on the edges is still more yellow because it's not as whipped. But the icing in the middle is white and fluffy. We want it all to be white and fluffy. Here it is all done. Here I will show you how to use the icing and the cake that we made in our cake video and show how to ice a cake. First, put a small dollop of buttercream icing on your cake plate. Then put your first layer of cake on top of the icing. This helps it stick so that it doesn't slide off while you're icing the rest of the cake. Plop a nice pile of icing on the first layer and spread out evenly to the edges. Having a cake plate that spins is very helpful for this process, but it still can be done just fine without one. The goal here is to make sure the icing layer is nice and flat before we add our next layer. Put a good amount of icing on the top of the next layer and start smoothing it out over the top, and now you can start to work on the edges as well. What we're doing here is called a crumb coat. A crumb coat is a thin layer of icing that traps in all the cake crumbs, but it also helps you to fill in places where your cake might not be totally even. The crumb coat gives you a solid base to start decorating on. If you were to put all your icing on at once, you might catch crumbs and then they would get mixed in, and then you would see little spotted crumbs throughout your cake and your icing, which might not be the look you're going for. So I'm just putting a thin layer on. You can still see some of the layers through this icing, and that's just to catch any loose crumbs. Once we have the crumb coat of icing on, then I'll add my next coat of icing, but I won't have to worry about crumbs this time. If your icing is too soft, you can put your cake in the fridge for about 5 to 10 minutes to firm it up before adding your next layer of icing. My icing was not too soft, so I skipped that step, and now I'm going to add my next layer and put the rest of the icing on. The goal here is just to have a nice even layer of icing all around the cake, the sides and the top, so that it's even and smooth. I can be a bit of a perfectionist, so this part can sometimes take me quite a while. But depending on how much you care about how many discrepancies are in your icing, this may only take you a couple minutes. Now I'm going to use the rest of my icing Put it into a bag and use it to make a border around the bottom of the cake. This really cleans up the look of the cake and makes it look a lot better. Cut a small hole in the bottom of your piping bag. Drop a star tip in there. Fold over the top so that you don't get icing all over your edges, and fill it with icing. Bring the edges of the bag back up and twist it so your icing doesn't come out the top. And then you can start piping it on the base of your cake. The pattern I'm going to use goes around then back for just a step, and then keeps going all the way around while making little back steps the whole time. At this point, I knew I was going to run out of icing, so I tried to stretch it, and that didn't make for the best looking border, but that's okay. We just used some flowers that we had at our studio to make a simple topping and decoration for our cake. And now we'll slice into it to show you what it looks like on the inside. Decorating options are just about endless with the layer cake, so get creative and find new and fun ways to decorate your cake.